The night was cold, and the city streets were almost empty. Shops closed one by one, glowing signs fading into darkness. Only the sound of footsteps and the whisper of wind remained. In that lonely market street, an alien woman walked slowly. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, and her hands shook. She was not alone. A small child clung to her side, too weak to cry. The mother pressed her arms around him, whispering, "Just a little more. Stay with me." But her own legs were trembling, and her stomach twisted with hunger. No one looked at her. Merchants packed their goods and turned away. Passers-by pulled their cloaks tighter and pretended not to see. To them, she was nothing more than another starving stranger, a shadow to be ignored. The mother stopped near a bakery stall. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. Her child lifted his head, eyes wide. The bread looked soft, golden warm. For a moment, hope flickered in her heart. She stepped closer, whispering, "Please, just one piece for my son." The baker's eyes narrowed. He shook his head, snapping, "Not for beggars. Move along." He pulled down the shutters, leaving her in darkness once more. Her child coughed weakly. The sound broke her heart more than hunger ever could. She knelt down, brushing his thin hair from his forehead. She wanted to tell him it would be fine, but the truth was cruel. She had no food, no coin, no help. As she stood again, her vision blurred. The world spun and her knees almost gave way. But then she saw something across the street. Under the dim light of a broken lamp, a man was kneeling, a human. He held a small bag and set food on the ground. Stray dogs gathered around him, wagging their tails. He tore pieces of bread and gave it to them. Not once did he push them away or kick them aside. His voice was soft. "Easy there. Plenty for all of you." The alien woman froze, her eyes fixed on the bread in his hands. Her child followed her gaze for the first time that night. The boy's eyes shone. He tugged her sleeve, whispering with weak innocence, "Mother, marry him. Maybe then he will give us food." Her heart stopped. Shame and pain crashed into her chest. Her child was too young to understand what marriage meant, too innocent to know the weight of his words. But his voice was desperate, full of hunger and hope. The woman's lips trembled. She looked at the man again. A simple human, not rich, not powerful. His clothes were plain, his boots covered in dust. But there was kindness in his movements. The way he cared for the hungry animals told her more than words ever could. She wanted to turn away. Pride screamed at her not to beg. But her child's hand clutched hers tightly. His small eyes begged silently. And she knew. Tonight was different. If she walked away now, there would be no tomorrow for her child. Her steps were heavy as she crossed the street, each one filled with doubt and fear. The human noticed her, standing up slowly. His expression wary at first, then curious. He had never seen her kind up close before, her glowing eyes dimmed by hunger, her body shaking with weakness. The mother bowed her head, her voice soft and broken. "Please, my son is starving. I have nothing left, not even pride." She swallowed hard, forcing the words out. "If you wish, take me. Call me wife. Call me slave. I do not care. Just give him something to eat." Silence filled the air. The stray dogs looked between them, tails still wagging. The human stared. Stunned by her words, he had seen beggars before, but never one offering herself for a piece of bread. His heart twisted inside his chest. He looked at the child. The boy's eyes were wide, his small hands trembling. Every rib showed through his thin skin. He looked like he had not eaten in days. The human felt something burn in his chest. Anger and sorrow mixed without speaking. He reached into his bag. He pulled out a loaf of bread. Still warm, the mother gasped. Her child's eyes lit up. The human knelt and held it out gently. "Take it, both of you, no price." "No bargain." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. Her child grabbed the bread with shaking hands, biting into it quickly. The taste of food brought life back to his face. The mother covered her mouth. Unable to stop the tears, she whispered, Why would you help us?" The human's eyes were steady, his voice quiet but firm. "Because no one else will." The night around them seemed to pause. The market was silent, but something powerful had begun. A starving stranger, a desperate child, and a human's simple act of kindness. It was not just bread. It was the first spark of a story that would change everything. The bread was warm in the child's hands. He ate quickly, crumbs falling on his small shirt. His eyes closed with relief as he chewed. The mother watched him with trembling lips, tears rolling silently for the first time in days. Her child was eating, but inside her, shame and fear twisted like knives. She had begged before many times, but never like this, never with such broken words. She had offered herself, her dignity, her pride for food, and the man had not mocked her, not rejected her. He had simply given. The human sat down on the edge of a stone step. His bag rested beside him, still holding a little food. The stray dogs curled around his feet. The mother stood there awkwardly, not sure if she should leave or stay. Her child leaned against her, clutching the bread tightly. The human's voice broke the silence. "You should sit. You look like you'll fall any moment." The woman hesitated, then sank to her knees a little distance away. Her eyes lowered, her body stiff. She had learned long ago not to trust kindness. Kindness always came with a price. The man studied her carefully. Her skin was pale, patterned faintly with glowing lines that seemed dimmed by weakness. Her silver hair was tangled, her arms thin, too thin. It shocked him how close she looked to collapsing. And yet her eyes still burned with a strange strength, like a flame refusing to die. The child finished the bread quickly. He looked at the man with wide eyes. Then, in his innocent voice, he spoke again. "Please, marry my mother, human. She is good. If you do, she will not cry anymore, and I will not be hungry." The mother gasped. Her hand flew to her child's mouth, but it was too late. The words were out. Hanging in the night air, her face turned crimson with shame. Her body trembled. She whispered harshly, "Do not speak such things, child." But the boy's eyes were honest. Desperate, he looked at the human with a pleading gaze. He did not understand the meaning of marriage fully. To him it was simple. Family meant safety. And this human, who fed even the street dogs, felt safe. The human was stunned. His heart ached at the innocence in the boy's voice. He wanted to laugh, but laughter would be cruel. Instead, he said nothing. Only looked at the mother. She bowed her head, her voice shaking. "Forgive him. He is just a child, too hungry to think." The man's eyes softened. "No need to apologize," he said quietly. But in his mind, the boy's words echoed. "Marry my mother." It was not a proposal. It was a cry for salvation. The woman took a deep breath. She forced herself to speak. Though each word was heavy, "Human, why did you help us? Do you not fear trouble?" Her voice was cautious, almost afraid, because she knew helping outcasts like her could bring punishment. The man leaned back, his eyes on the dark sky. "I helped because it was right," he said simply. "I saw a child starving. I could not walk away." The woman closed her eyes. Her heart twisted with both relief and terror. If only it were so simple. But she knew the world was cruel. Kindness like his was rare, and often punished. The child yawned softly, exhaustion pressing down after the meal. The mother stroked his hair, her body aching with the weight of her life's burden. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "If only the world had more men like you." The human tilted his head. Catching the words, he studied her again, her eyes glistening with tears, her arms trembling as she held her child close. He wanted to ask more, but suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the street. The mother stiffened instantly. Her body went cold. She grabbed her child. Pulling him close, her eyes darted to the shadows. From the corner of the street, two figures appeared. Alien enforcers in dark armor, their glowing eyes fixed on her. Her heart raced. She whispered quickly, "Please go, human." "They cannot see you with us." The man frowned, confused. "Why? Who are they?" The woman's voice broke. "They are the ones who watch the outcasts, the slaves. They know I have no right to be here." She held her child tighter, trembling, her face pale with fear. "If they see you give me food, they will take you too." The human's jaw tightened. For the first time, anger flickered in his eyes. He had thought hunger was the worst enemy, but now he saw this was deeper, darker. This woman and her child were not just poor. They were hunted, controlled, crushed. The enforcer's steps grew louder, closer. The mother's breath quickened. She turned to the man one last time, her eyes desperate, shining with tears. "Please leave us. I cannot bear to see you destroyed because of me." The human rose to his feet. The dogs growled lowly, sensing danger. The night grew colder, the silence heavier in that moment. The man faced a choice: to walk away and save himself, or to stay and face the storm with them. The street had grown colder, the lamps flickering weakly. The sound of armored boots echoed against the stone walls. Two alien enforcers marched forward, their glowing visors scanning every shadow. The stray dogs whimpered and slipped back into the alleys. But the human did not move. The alien woman gripped her child tightly. Her heart raced as if it would break. She whispered again, "Please go, before they see you." Her eyes begged him to turn away, but the human's gaze stayed fixed on the enforcers. Calm, steady, unshaken. The boy peeked from his mother's arms, his small eyes filled with both fear and trust. He had spoken those innocent words earlier, "Marry my mother," and now he clung to the man as if destiny itself had chosen him. The enforcers stopped a few steps away. Their voices were metallic, sharp. "You there, alien woman? You have no permit to be in this sector." One of them raised a rod crackling with energy. "And your child does not belong here either." The woman lowered her head quickly. Her voice broke. "Forgive me, I was only passing through. I will leave." Her whole body shook as she tried to hide behind her words, but the enforcers laughed coldly. "Leave? No, you will be taken for questioning." The boy buried his face in her chest. She kissed his hair, whispering promises she could not keep. Tears burned in her eyes. Her only thought was how to shield him, even if it meant her own suffering. But before she could speak again, the human stepped forward. His boots echoed firmly against the stone. He placed himself between them and the woman, his voice steady, almost too calm. "She is with me." The enforcers paused, their glowing eyes shifted to him. They scanned his face, his plain clothes, his dust-covered boots, a human, unremarkable. Unarmed, one of them sneered, "With you? Do you claim this outcast belongs to you?" The man's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He looked back at the mother and child, the boy's innocent face, the woman's tear-filled eyes, and he knew the truth. Walking away would be easier, safer, but if he left, their story would end tonight. They would vanish into chains, and he would never forgive himself. His voice came firm, without hesitation. "Yes, she belongs with me." "They both do," the woman gasped. Her breath caught in her throat. She shook her head slightly, whispering, "No, you cannot." But the enforcers stepped closer. Their rods hummed with deadly energy. "You dare claim a slave as your own? Humans have no rights here." Their tone was full of mockery, but also threat. The human's heart pounded in his chest. Fear whispered in his mind, reminding him he was just one man, but something deeper drowned it out. A fire he hadn't felt in years burned in him now. He stood taller, his eyes unflinching. "She is not your slave, and the boy is not your property." The words hung heavy in the cold air. The woman stared at him as if he were mad. No one had ever spoken against the enforcers. Not for her, not for any of the outcasts. But this human had, and in that moment something inside her broke. Not fear, but the wall she had built around her hope. The enforcers snarled, "Then you will suffer the same fate as them." They raised their rods, sparks of blue fire dancing. The woman screamed softly, covering her child's eyes. But the human did not step back. He reached down, his hand closing around a broken piece of metal pipe near the street. A simple weapon, nothing more, but in his grip it became a promise. "If you want them," he said slowly, "you will have to go through me." The enforcers hesitated, not because of his weapon, but because of his eyes. They were steady, fierce, unyielding, the look of someone who had already chosen death if needed, and that kind of resolve could not be ignored. The crowd began to gather, whispers spread quickly. A human stands against the enforcers. He defends an outcast woman. Eyes peered from windows. Shadows moved closer. The city, usually blind to suffering, now turned to watch. The woman trembled, her heart torn. Fear screamed inside her. But a new warmth began to bloom, hope. She had begged, humiliated herself, offered everything, and now, this stranger had chosen them without being asked. He had no reason, no bond, no reward, only kindness, only courage. The boy, still clinging to her, looked up at the man, his voice small but clear. "Father?" The human turned his head slightly. For a moment the hardness in his eyes softened. He gave the boy the smallest nod, and then his grip on the pipe tightened again. Facing the enforcers fully, the night grew silent. Every breath, every heartbeat seemed to pause. The woman's tears fell not of despair this time, but of disbelief, that in her darkest moment, a human stranger had chosen her and her child against power, against fear. Against reason he had chosen to fight, and with that choice, their lives and the fate of many others had begun to change. The crowd whispered louder. their voices mixing with the crackle of the enforcers' rods. Everyone was waiting for the first strike. But before the rods could fall, another sound echoed through the street. A deep horn from the watchtower, signaling patrol shift. The enforcers froze for a moment, exchanging looks. They had no time to waste in a crowded street. One leaned closer to the human, his metallic voice low and sharp. "This is not over. She belongs to the system, and so will you." Then, with a hiss, they turned and marched into the shadows, their armor clanking against the stone. The crowd quickly scattered, afraid to be linked with what they had just witnessed. Within moments, the street was quiet again. The woman fell to her knees, her child still clutched tightly in her arms. Tears streamed down her face as relief washed over her, but her body still shook, knowing danger would return. The human lowered the broken pipe, his knuckles white from gripping it. He looked down at them, his chest rising and falling. He had stood against the enforcers, but the fight was not truly over. The boy lifted his face, eyes glowing with innocence. "You scared them, Father. You're strong." The human knelt, setting the pipe aside. He placed a hand gently on the boy's head. "Strength isn't just fighting, little one. Sometimes it's choosing not to walk away." The woman stared at him, her lips parting to speak. But no words came. She wanted to thank him. She wanted to scream at him for being reckless. And she wanted to confess the truth. The reason the enforcers hunted her, but fear chained her tongue. The human noticed her silence, his eyes softened. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said. "But if I'm going to protect you and the boy, I need to understand what danger we're standing in." The woman swallowed hard, her eyes darting to the empty street. Then, with a trembling voice, she began. "We were not always beggars. Once we had a home. My husband worked in the upper districts repairing machines for the officials." Her gaze turned distant, haunted. But one night soldiers came. They accused him of stealing parts, of plotting rebellion. Lies, all lies. Her child pressed against her, listening quietly, though he didn't fully understand. The woman's voice cracked as she continued. "They dragged him away. I begged, I screamed, but they beat me until I could not stand. Since then, I have not seen him." Her hands clenched around the child. "They marked me an outcast. No one may sell to me, no one may give me shelter. If they do, they risk punishment." The human's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened with anger. Now he understood why the baker refused her, why the crowd turned away. This was not just poverty. It was punishment, designed to erase her and her child. The woman lowered her head, shame flooding her. "You see now, I am not just poor, I am cursed in their eyes. Anyone who helps me becomes a target. That is why you must leave us. You still have a chance to be safe." The boy clutched her sleeve, his small voice whispered, "But mother." He stayed when others ran. The woman kissed his head, her tears falling into his hair. "Yes, my son, but kindness will destroy him if he does not walk away." The human rose to his feet slowly. His eyes scanned the street, the rooftops, the dark alleys where shadows hid. He could feel it, eyes watching from unseen places. The enforcers may have left, but spies remained. The system always watched. He turned back to the woman, his voice steady. "If danger follows no matter where you go, then leaving you here alone is the same as handing you to them myself." "I won't do that." The woman's eyes widened, her lips trembled. "But why? You owe us nothing. You don't even know our names." The human's gaze softened for the first time that night. "Sometimes you don't need to know names to know what is right," he said. "You are a mother trying to keep her child alive. That is enough for me." The boy smiled weakly. Curling into his mother's arms for the first time, a fragile spark of safety touched his heart. The woman, however, was torn between gratitude and fear, because she knew the moment he chose them, his life had already changed. The wind swept through the empty market. Somewhere in the shadows, the sound of a communicator clicked on. A hidden voice whispered into the device. "The human interferes. Report this to the higher ranks. He has claimed the outcast as his own." The night deepened, the city lights dimmed, and while the woman held her child and whispered thanks to the stars, the human looked into the darkness. He felt it. Danger was not gone, it was only waiting. The shadows carried secrets, and soon every secret would come hunting for them. The morning sun rose slowly over the city. Golden light touched the broken streets. Yet for the alien mother and her child it brought no peace. They sat in a small abandoned corner where the human had guided them. Away from watchful eyes, The boy slept soundly, his stomach finally full for the first time in days. But the mother could not rest, her eyes red from worry. The human leaned against the wall, his arms folded, watching the street quietly. He had not spoken much since last night, but his presence alone felt like a shield still. The mother's voice trembled as she whispered, "You should not have stayed. They will come back for us. And for you." The man's gaze did not waver. "I knew that when I stood between you and them," he said calmly. "Danger is not the problem. The problem is letting fear decide everything." The mother wanted to argue, but words failed her. There was something in his voice, something unshakable. She lowered her head, whispering a silent prayer for him because she knew the system always punished those who defied it. Before more could be said, the sound of marching boots echoed again. This time it was not 2 enforcers but 5, their armor shining in the sunlight. They walked with cruel confidence, rods crackling with blue energy. One carried a chain, another a binding collar. Their leader, taller than the rest, spoke with a sneer. "The human thinks himself brave. Let us see how brave when we break his bones." The mother's heart dropped. She grabbed her child, shaking him awake. The boy stirred, frightened. Clutching at her clothes, the human stepped forward, his face hard, his voice calm. "Leave them. You want me? Here I am." The leader laughed, a cruel sound. "You claim what does not belong to you, human. You insult the order of this city. Do you think your kind can protect anyone?" The crowd began to gather again, whispers spreading like fire. People hid behind stalls and doors, peering out nervously. No one dared step forward, but no one looked away either. Everyone wanted to see what would happen to the human who challenged the system. The boy clung to his mother, whispering, "He will fight them." "Won't he?" The woman kissed his hair, her voice breaking. "I don't know, my son, but he already gave us more hope than we ever had." The enforcers advanced, their rods humming with deadly sparks. The human bent down and picked up another piece of iron from the street. Not much of a weapon, but enough to hold in his hands. His eyes burned with steady fire. "You'll have to kill me before you touch them," he said, his voice carrying across the silent street. The leader smirked. "So be it." The enforcers lunged forward, their rods swinging with blinding speed. The crowd gasped. The human ducked under the first strike, his pipe clashing hard against the rod, sparks bursting. The second blow grazed his shoulder, burning through cloth, but he did not falter. He struck back with raw strength. Knocking one enforcer off balance, the boy cried out, hiding his face in his mother's chest. The woman's tears streamed as she watched, torn between terror and awe. Every strike the human blocked, every move he made, showed something the crowd had forgotten, that even without armor, without power, a man could stand tall, but numbers pressed against him. One rod cracked against his ribs, forcing him to his knees. The leader raised his chain to wrap it around his neck. The mother screamed, running forward before she could think. "Stop. Please take me instead." The crowd gasped. The leader paused, his cruel eyes gleaming. "You? You are nothing. You were always ours to break." The boy ran to her side, clutching her hand, crying. The human forced himself up, blood at his lip. His voice roared, louder than ever before. "No! She belongs to no one. Neither does the child. If you call yourselves enforcers of order, then face me, not them." The street trembled with his words, the crowd stirred, whispers growing bolder. "He's right. They are not property. Why do we let them treat us like this?" For the first time, cracks formed in the silence of the city. The enforcers noticed it too, their visors flashing in alarm. The leader growled, "Enough of this. End him now." They surged together, but something shifted in the crowd. A stone flew, striking one enforcer's helmet, then another, a bottle crashing at their feet. The people, silent for so long, had seen enough. The mother clutched her child, her eyes wide with shock. The human stood again, his weapon raised. The street had turned. It was no longer just one man against the system. It was the beginning of resistance. The enforcers fell back slightly, their confidence shaken. The leader hissed, glaring at the human, "You will regret this." The order does not forget defiance. With a sharp gesture, they retreated into the alleys, leaving behind a silence heavier than steel. The crowd murmured, voices filled with something new, hope. The human dropped the pipe, his chest heaving, his body aching. The mother rushed to him, tears streaming. She caught his arm, whispering, "Why do you do this? Why risk your life for us?" He looked at her, his face bruised but his eyes unwavering. Because I cannot stand by and let them destroy what is innocent. Because you and your child deserve more than chains. The boy hugged him tightly, whispering, "You're my father now. I knew it." The mother's heart broke and healed at the same time. She held them both, realizing the truth. The fight was not over. But they were no longer alone. The streets were quiet now, but the silence was heavy. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting long shadows across broken buildings. The alien mother held her child close. Trembling, her eyes darted at every corner, every doorway. Afraid the enforcers would return, the human crouched beside them, wiping blood from his face. He examined his makeshift weapon. Thinking quickly, he knew they would come back. Stronger and more prepared this time. He needed a plan, more than just strength, more than courage. He needed to break the chains that bound not only their bodies but the fear in the city. The boy tugged at his sleeve, his eyes wide. "Will they come again?" he asked, his small voice trembling. "Yes," the human replied softly. "But this time, we won't hide. We will stand, and we will win." The mother watched him, awe and disbelief mixing in her heart. She whispered, "You are not like anyone else. You risk everything for us, for me, for him." He shook his head, smiling faintly. "I risk nothing. This is what humans do. They fight for what is right. Not because they have to, but because it matters." Suddenly, a shadow moved across the alley. The enforcers had returned, 5 of them, rods humming and chains swinging. The leader stepped forward, his face dark with rage. "Human, you cannot escape justice. You and your charges will pay." The human stood, his shoulders square, his jaw tight. "Justice?" he spat. "You call this justice? Taking food from the hungry? Chaining the innocent? No, that is cruelty. And cruelty ends today." The enforcers lunged, but the crowd had begun to gather, peeking from behind walls and broken stalls. Whispers rose, then voices, then shouts. "Stop! You cannot take them. They are not your property." The momentum was shifting. The fear that had kept the city silent now breaking. The human swung his weapon with precise strength, knocking one enforcer off balance. The mother grabbed a heavy piece of debris and threw it at another. The boy clutched a metal rod, trying to help. Though small, his courage reflected the hope he felt in his heart. The leader growled, frustration creeping into his voice. "You cannot fight alone. Fall back or be destroyed." But the human did not falter. He stepped forward, facing the leader. "I am not alone. You will see that today." From the crowd, more hands lifted. Stones, broken rods, anything that could strike. People who had watched silently for years now chose to act. The enforcers staggered under the sudden resistance, their confidence crumbling. The leader's sneer faltered. Replaced with anger and fear, the human moved closer to the mother and child. He whispered, "Stay behind me. Watch and learn. Freedom is not given. It is taken." He struck the leader's rod with a sharp hit, sparks flying. Another enforcer fell. His rod knocked from his hands. The mother and child watched. Eyes wide, hearts racing, the boy shouted, "You can't hurt them anymore." The words, simple as they were, carried power. The crowd repeated them louder. "You can't hurt them anymore." The leader's face darkened, his authority slipping. He realized something the human already knew. Fear had been their weapon. But now the weapon had turned. The people were no longer afraid. The enforcers had no control over their own city. The human raised his voice, strong and unwavering. "Chains are not stronger than courage. Walls cannot contain hope. Today you fail, not just me, but everyone who ever suffered under your rule." One by one, the enforcers dropped their weapons. Their rods sparking and hissing, the leader fell to his knees, defeated but unwilling to beg. The crowd surged forward, freeing those who had been rounded up before. Chains were broken, collars smashed. The alien mother gasped as the boy ran to other children. Freeing them, her heart swelled with tears, relief and joy crashing together. The human looked around, surveying the streets. He saw fear replaced by courage, oppression replaced by hope. The city was not fully free, but the first cracks had appeared in the walls of cruelty. He turned to the mother and child, smiling faintly. "This is the beginning. You will not be hungry, you will not be afraid. Not while I am here." The mother hugged him, tears falling freely. "You saved more than us. You saved the courage of everyone here." The boy ran into the human's arms, laughing. "You're my dad. You saved us all." The human held them close, looking at the city that was slowly waking to a new dawn. He knew more challenges would come, more battles to fight, but for now, the chains were broken. Not just the metal chains, but the chains of fear and silence, and in that moment, the mother realized the truth she had been afraid to speak. This human had given them more than food or safety. He had given them hope, courage, and the belief that even in a world of cruelty, humanity could rise, and the boy whispered, smiling at both of them, "Tomorrow, we start our new life together." The human nodded, his gaze firm. Yes, together. The city was quiet now, but it was a different kind of quiet, a quiet filled with hope instead of fear. The sun rose slowly, painting the broken streets in gold. The alien mother and child walked beside the human, their steps light yet careful. The air smelled of dust and smoke, but also of freedom, of possibility. The mother glanced at the boy, her eyes soft, grateful. "I never thought I would see a day like this," she whispered. The human looked at her, his face calm but his eyes bright. "The world can change," he said, "one step at a time, one choice at a time." They reached the square where the enforcers had ruled with fear. The rods and chains lay broken, scattered across the ground. The people came out from alleys and doorways, slowly at first, then more confidently, smiling, talking, helping each other up. The fear that had bound them for years was gone. Replaced with cautious courage, the boy ran ahead, picking up a small piece of metal from the ground. "Look, Dad," he shouted, "we can make toys. We can build things." The human smiled, watching the boy's imagination blossom. "Yes, and we will build more than toys," he said. "We will build a life that no one can take from us." The mother followed, still holding her child's hand.
"We have nothing," she murmured. "No home, no food."
"No safety?" The human shook his head gently. "Nothing?" He asked. "You have each other. And now you have me. That is enough to start." A group of neighbors approached them, timid at first. We saw what you did," one said. "You freed us all. You showed us we are not alone." The human nodded, his jaw tight. "You are not alone. You never were. Courage is stronger than chains." The mother's eyes filled with tears. "You are more than human. You are a protector, a savior," she said softly. He shook his head, a small smile playing at his lips. "No, I am just someone who believes in right over wrong. That is all." The boy tugged at his mother's sleeve, pointing toward the market. "Look, we can get food! We can eat today." The mother's stomach growled at the thought, but she laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in months, maybe years. The human handed her a small coin. "Go, get what you need. Feed your child. Feed yourself." Her eyes widened, disbelief shining in them. "For us?" "Yes," he said, "for you. No one should go hungry while I am here." The market was chaotic, but no one tried to stop them. The vendors nodded respectfully, giving food at fair prices. The mother filled her arms with bread, fruit, and a small portion of meat. The boy's eyes lit up, and he clutched a loaf to his chest. "We are safe. We are alive. We can eat," he cried, laughing. The mother hugged both her son and the human, tears streaming freely. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You saved us. You gave us life." The human smiled, looking at the child. "You don't need to thank me. You need to promise me something instead." The mother looked puzzled. "What promise?" "Promise me you will not forget courage, hope, and kindness," he said. "Promise me you will teach your son to do the same." The mother nodded, holding her child close. "I promise," she said. "We will never forget." As the sun climbed higher, the city began to stir in a new rhythm. Children ran through streets once silent and empty. Vendors shouted their wares, not in fear, but in joy. People smiled at each other, shared what they had. The human stood on a small hill watching, a quiet pride in his heart. This was more than survival. This was life restored. This was hope rising from ashes. Stronger than anything he had known, the boy ran to him, holding out a small toy he had made from broken metal. "For you, Dad. Thank you for saving us." The human took it, smiling warmly. "Keep it, remember. Even small things can become great with care and courage." The mother watched them, a quiet peace settling over her. She finally understood what the human had done. He had given them more than food, more than safety. He had given them a chance to live, to dream, to hope again. And as the city bathed in golden sunlight, the human, the mother, and the child walked together. Their shadows stretched long behind them. But the fear was gone. The chains broken, the dawn bright. This was the beginning of everything. A life they would build together. A life no one could take away. The mother whispered softly, "Thank you, my human, my savior. My family." The human looked at them both, eyes calm but full of warmth. "No, thank you for trusting me, for believing in a tomorrow we will create together." And the boy shouted, laughing, "Tomorrow, we will be stronger. Tomorrow, we will be free." The human smiled, nodding, "Yes, tomorrow and every day after that." The city had a new heartbeat now, and in that heartbeat, courage, hope, and humanity thrived.